So now, time for the travel section. 2024 was a pretty crazy year, pretty interesting year for me to travel in. So, didn't do as many trips as I wanted to, but I did quite a few that are quite nice. So, first, I started off by going to Orlando on a school trip with the orchestra, choir, and guitar people, the other people. So I'm going to give you my tips for the parks we went to in Disney and in Universal. So here we go. First of all, the thing that everyone knows about those theme parks in Orlando are lines. The lines are everywhere and they're unavoidable. So don't overplan. They're everywhere. I remember how many people in our group wanted to go on Velocicoaster even though they had limited time and the line was long, so they had to leave. So don't overplan. Don't be overambitious. And by the way, download the app, because the app has there's a Disney app and a Universal app, and they have information on how long the lines are at each of the rides. And speaking of those rides, my second tip would be that there are different thrill levels to all the rides, and choose what you're comfortable with, or try to go out of your comfort zone once and do something thrilling, and you might find that you like it, or you might find that you don't. For example, Tower of Terror, not really my thing, too thrilly for me, as I learned when I went on it. But for some of you, it's a bit, it's exactly what you want. So, and another thing is, there's one ride that I know for sure at the Magic Kingdom that requires a reservation, the Tron. Go online. There's tons of information. It's reserved through the Disney app. There's tons of information on how to get that reservation done. So if you want to ride that, you better do that. If there are any other rides that you want to go on, check to make sure if they require reservations. Most don't, but some do. And if you don't go on it, then why did you pay thousands of dollars to do it? And the final tip I have is eat what you can get. The food, it won't be good, of course, because you're stuck there and they're gonna give you anything for a lot of money, and might not necessarily be the best, might not be the worst. There's some good options, but don't expect it to be a culinary masterpiece wherever you go. And so just look around, because you don't have to eat at the worst places. So that was the appetizer for this year. Now comes the Spain trip, which I took a month later in March over spring break with my family, and those tips are coming right up next. So the other trip I went on was to Spain over spring break, and that was a great trip. Great way to relax and unwind and understand a different culture and just take a break from the reality of daily life and school and everything. So I went to Madrid, Barcelona, and Toledo. So, and they're all great places, all interesting in their own ways, all have their own things to offer. I spent a few days in each, except Toledo, which I spent around a day in. And they're all quite different, so I'm going to give you the tips. Now I'm going to start with, I'm going to go in the order of the trip. So I'm going to go Barcelona first, then Madrid, then Toledo. So, Barcelona, beginning now. Number one, get reservations for the Sagrada Familia. If there's something that you have to get reservations for in Barcelona, it's the Sagrada Familia, which is that church that you see in all the postcards. That looks very crazy and everything. Yeah, it's because it's designed by Antoni Gaudí, which we'll get to him in a little bit. This famous architect from Barcelona, and it's still not finished. Just telling you. So you're gonna see some scaffolding, but most of the church is done, so you can actually have an enjoyable experience touring it. But get that reservation. That's the only site that I say you have to get it. Picasso Museum, probably worth it as well if you want to do that. Catalan Art Museum, I haven't been there, but if you want to go to Sagrada Familia, get that reservation. And speaking of Antoni Gaudí, if you're like, well, what's the deal with Antoni Gaudí? He's so famous, but I don't like the stuff. It ain't cool, whatever. Well, I'll tell you this. If you were there during a cloudy day like myself, that would make sense, because the way it's designed is to just reflect all the light of the stained glass in the Sagrada Familia, and reflect all and basically make it shimmer all the other buildings in the center of town, as well, all the other houses that he built. And I know this because on the day I was going out to Madrid, going to the train station in the taxi, we passed by one of those houses. I passed by one of those houses, and it was just shimmering, and now I understood why Antoni Gaudi is the architect that he was and as revered as he was. But that's that. If you don't think that he's cool, I won't force it on you. I think there are better things to see in Barcelona. I think Barcelona Cathedral in the Gothic quarter is cooler than Sagrada Familia, but don't think Gaudi is this, I can't ever like him. Like, try to like him. If you can't, okay, that's up to you. And speaking of that, there's a couple of, like I mentioned, there's a couple of houses that Gaudi built that are around Barcelona in the newer part of town, the expansion, or in Catalan, Eixample. So, and you can see them from the outside on the street, or you can go inside. And if you go inside, let me tell you, I went inside Casa Milà, one of the houses. Now, I'd say, not worth it. I mean, the roof is cool, I guess, with those like interesting gargoyles, but the interior, look, it's a 20th century modern house. It's not the Royal Palace at Madrid. It's just a house. It's a little curvy and such, but you can, I wouldn't say it's worth it. I'd spend time on something else. I think that the houses are cooler from the outside than from the inside. I can't speak to the other houses that he built, but Casa Milà, pass it. I'm just telling you to save time. Next, do visit Montjuic Hill. It has a very interesting military history, because it was used as a fortress by the Spaniards to keep the Catalans down after they sided. So, you know, there's the War of Spanish Succession, and the Catalans sided with the Habsburgs, who had no heirs in Spain. So the story basically goes that the King of Spain, who is Habsburg, passed the throne to Philip of Anjou, the grandson of Louis XIV of France, Bourbon dynasty, and so most of Europe didn't like that because they didn't want France to be all-powerful. And so Barcelona and Catalonia sided with the Habsburgs. But what ended up happening is, as part of the deal that ended the war, the Bourbons, Philip, who would be Philip V of Spain, got the throne of Spain, but it would not have anything to do with the throne of France. So, in order to punish Barcelona and Catalonia, they put up a fortress on Montjuic Hill, and it was to keep watch over them and to keep them repressed. And I'll get to that and Catalan independence generally later. And also Francisco Franco, during the Spanish Civil War, it used it. The Catalans really, along with the Basques, gave him a hard time uniting Spain. And speaking of uniting Spain, up on Montjuic Hill there is the Spanish Village, which is basically an open-air museum of houses from all the regions of Spain: Andalusia, Basque Country, Aragon, all the regions of Spain, Galicia. And so it was built in 1929 for the World's Fair. And what I say is, go to it. I know it sounds like some Disneyland tourist trap kind of set piece, but seriously, it's a nice place to visit. You're not going to go to all the regions of Spain on your trip, so you might as well pretend like you're going. And they did it really well. It doesn't look fake at all. They did it really well. They recreated the houses extremely well. So I would recommend going to that Spanish Village when you're up there. It's only a few euros, and it's quite nice. So then I'm going to take you to the touristy, most famous street in Barcelona, La Rambla, and I would say is go to the Boqueria market. Very nice market. I just like the vibe in there. So if you want anything, if you want some fresh produce, some juice, or if you just want to walk around, take a break. It's a very like gritty kind of old school market. Very nice. Not as big as I thought it would be, but still quite a nice market. And going back to that theme of Catalan independence, it is a very touchy subject. In Barcelona, remember in 2017 they had the referendum where that Spain sent police to break up and end. And what you will notice is that there are no Spanish flags in Barcelona on the windows, out of the apartments. You're not going to see them. If at all, you might see one, but I didn't see any. I saw two flags. The flag of Catalonia, which is like the red and yellow flag with like the stripes without all this. The one with the seals and stuff, that's the Spanish one, but the one without it, Catalan. Or you'll see the Catalan independence flag, which is basically the flag of Catalonia merged with the flag of Cuba, because in 1898, the Spanish-American War, Cuba was gaining independence and from Spain, and Catalonia felt solidarity with Cuba in their struggles for independence. So they have very similar looking independence flags. So you're gonna see that. I saw a hostage symbol, the yellow ribbon for the hostages, and it's not for the. And I'm assuming it would be very unlikely for it to be for the hostages Hamas took on October 7th. It's probably for the leaders of the Catalan independence movement that Spain is imprisoning or is not allowing back into Spain. And your guides will be sure to make you aware of it. They'll be biased one way or the other, but you will be aware of it. They will take you to the monument to the defeat of Catalonia in 1714 in the aforementioned War of Spanish Succession. They will 100% and mention how Barcelona was basically not allowed to expand until the 19th century as part of this punishment. So they'll also probably take you to the Catalan foreign ministry, considered very illegal by Spain in the Gothic quarter. So just know, Catalan independence, touchy subject. Your guides will probably make you aware of it, but my suggestion is don't be too confrontational about it, because you don't live there and you don't really know much of the issues. And now from a historical note to a practical note, next tip, watch your wallet. Barcelona is pickpocket center. I didn't get pickpocketed, but all the blogs say it's pickpocket center. My guide said it was pickpocket center, so watch your wallets. Seriously. And that goes for a bunch of other cities in Spain and in Europe, but seriously, watch your wallet. It's a serious issue. And next tip is for all of you Americans out there who weren't paying attention in Spanish class or know one language or forgot it because Spanish class was a while ago. I'd say you don't feel like you have to know Spanish. Barcelona is a very international city with a lot of British expats and Pakistani immigrants. Those are two dominant groups there. So it's a very cosmopolitan city with with a huge English-speaking population thanks to the English expats and Pakistani immigrants. So Spanish, not a requirement. Helpful, but not a requirement. And going off of that, don't think it's the most Spanish of Spanish cities. Again, Catalan independence, they have their own pride and their own spirit. And not only that, our guide said that they prefer croissants, the French pastry, to churros, the Spanish donut, for breakfast with their coffee. And again, Barcelona, in politics, it's a very liberal city. A lot of the conservative South and even more, in Madrid, way more conservative city. They all kind of joke, Barcelona, they're all woke and everything, just like we do here in the United States about our big cities. It's like our guide put it this way, it's the California of Spain. And that would be accurate. And speaking of differences between Spain, the rest of Spain, and Barcelona and Catalonia, if you go to the tapas bar, don't expect the free tapas with your drinks. I know that's all over Spain, well, not in Barcelona. Just, that's not there. So, Barcelona, great experience. Now I'm going to move on to the next city I visited, Madrid. It's big rival. So we went from one to the other. So, Madrid, one, don't complain about the weather. Madrid is at a So, you know, Barcelona is at sea level. Madrid is in the mountains. Highest elevated capital in Europe, to my knowledge. And summers are scorching hot, winters are cold and windy. And don't think it's, but then again, all of you are from Chicago or from somewhere in the Midwest, so why do I need to tell you this? We're all used to terrible weather anyways. So, and don't complain about it. The locals know it's bad. And number two, in direct contrast to Barcelona, know some Spanish. Your high school Spanish, if you took it, is very helpful. Even in tourist places, like in the Prado, one of the people there, he's like, he couldn't understand English until I started speaking to him in Spanish, and then he wouldn't. So I guess this guy was just probably just like didn't want to speak English. So only after I struggled through my Spanish did he open up in English. But at tourist attractions, not a lot of English. At restaurants, not a lot of English. Taxi drivers, not a lot of English. It's not Barcelona, not the most international city. Very Spanish city with a lot of Spanish pride. And so I would say, if you took Spanish, revisit it or do your best to speak it. Your high school Spanish will definitely help you. Or if you don't know a thing of Spanish, any words, Google Translate will bail you out. That is the best tip I can give you. Next, I would say is pre-book the tickets for the Royal Palace, Reina Sofia, and Prado museums. So, Royal Palace, probably the most popular site in Madrid that you have to pay to go into. Definitely pre-book it. The line is so huge for the people that didn't book the ticket. So, pre-book the tickets when you go to the Royal Palace. And I'd say the same thing is true with the Prado Museum and Reina Sofia museums. Prado is the old art museum, Reina Sofia is the modern art museum. The lines at those museums and the Royal Palace are crazy. So pre-book the tickets, save yourself some headaches. And speaking of the Prado, I will say don't overdo it. It's it's on the level of the Met or of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. So it's too much stuff to see in one visit. Pick what you want to do. You can do the Spanish Renaissance art with the El Greco, or you can do Goya with the 19th century court painting, or you can do the Northern Renaissance, the Dutch Renaissance. You can do the Italian Renaissance. There's many styles of art to explore in the Prado. Don't just do what you really want and then be on your way. I'd say 2 hours, 2.5 hours is plenty for most people. Going back to the Royal Palace, I'd say don't miss the audio guys at the Royal Palace. Like, there's a sign for them, and then if you walk past them, you have to go all the way back. They don't, and the signs are very easy to miss. So pay attention. And good thing I had my Rick Steves guidebook to do the tour around the palace. Otherwise, I'd be like, what? This golden thing looks cool, but what's this about? What's this big table? How many? All this stuff. Oh, it's the king. The king designed it himself for his parties and stuff. So do that. And now I'm going to talk about getting around Madrid. Madrid is a very pedestrian city. Very, very easy to walk around. So don't think you need the metro ticket because the historic center is compact. Most of the things that you want to see are within walking distance. So I'd say pick a hotel, pay a bit more, stay in town, and then just walk around for the day. So, and then save money on the metro tickets. The only time you will need public transportation, I will say, is when you're going out to the airport, because the airport is basically in the middle of nowhere. It's like Denver, for those of you who have been there. Next, speaking of food, now we're going to go for food. So, if you see the sugar violets in the store, you might want to get them. They're traditional from Madrid. You might not like them. You might like them. It's worth trying to see how they are. They do sell them at the souvenir shops all over town. Next, I'd say go bar hopping and enjoy the free tapas. Go from one bar until you run out of free, then go to the next bar, and then do as much free food as you can, because they give you free food with each drink. And that's unlike Barcelona, where they don't give you anything. And in Madrid, they like to say Barcelonans are then therefore greedy for that reason. Again, part of the rivalry between the two cities. So, do that. Next, churros, the Spanish donut. You can get them all over town. Don't think that just like there's the famous place to get them, San Gine, I think it's called, Chocolateria San Gines. But here's the thing: you can get the churros all over town. They're probably gonna be just as good, and you'll also notice that they're not doused in cinnamon sugar like they are in Mexico. They're either doused in a bit of sugar or not much, and you dip in the chocolate for the taste. Quite interesting thing. Not the healthiest, but quite tasty. And like I said, don't underestimate the Madrid-Barcelona rivalry. You'll see the Spanish flags everywhere. You know, in Barcelona, Catalan flags everywhere. Here, Spanish flags everywhere. Madrid is slightly religious. I went during Holy Week, and they were carrying the Good Friday floats, all the Holy Week floats, all over the city, and it was right outside my hotel room, and it's a normal thing. From secular America, it will be quite shocking, but there it's absolutely normal. And you also see bullfighting is legal in Madrid. I'm not endorsing it. I didn't go to that. I'm not saying go to that or don't go to that. I'm just saying that it's legal in Madrid, illegal. Well, it's not illegal in Barcelona, but after they outlawed it and the ban, there was a ban, and then the ban came off. But still, the bullfights aren't back in Barcelona. And my last tip for Madrid: walk down the Gran Via with some very nice turn of the last century architecture. You got Neo-Baroque, Art Deco. You got many styles. So it'll be quite interesting. Kind of reminds me of Washington D.C. in a lot of ways. So now we move from the modern capital of Spain, Madrid, to the historic capital of Spain, Toledo. And here are my tips for Toledo, the historic capital of Spain, which, by the way, there was no capital of Spain officially, but that's where the king's court was. Then Toledo basically expanded the most that it could up to the river, and then King Philip II moved the capital an hour north to Madrid, which was just a tiny town back then. So, Toledo. First of all, stay overnight. I made that mistake, not staying overnight. There's too much stuff to see. There's a lot of things. You want to slow down and give yourself some time to explore the town. There's a lot of history and many layers. And speaking of that, Toledo is basically like an ogre. It has layers, too much stuff. So read a little bit of the history before you go. Pick which sites you really want to see. Do you want to see the cathedral? Do you want to see all the cathedral, just the church, the treasury, the art in the cathedral, whatever? Or do you want to see the Roman baths? Do you want to see which synagogues do you want to see, etc.? So pick and choose what you want in Toledo. There's just too much, and the history will wear you down if you don't take breaks and if you do too much. So. And yes, pick the tour of Toledo. If you're gonna hire a guide, pick the tour that you want. If you're interested in the historic, just the history, just the art, just the Jewish element, the Muslim element of Toledo, pick that. Pick which tour you're interested in. And my next thing is, there's two words that you do need to know for traveling in Toledo. One of them is for all over Spain. Mudéjar. Mudéjar is the Muslim architecture that Muslim craftsmen built for the Christian rulers after the Reconquista. And then there's El Greco, the court painter for the Spanish kings. He lived in Toledo, of course, because that's where the court was. So he spent a lot of time there. And you'll see his art all over Toledo and in the Prado in Madrid as well. And in Toledo, there's how can you see it? There's the Santa Cruz Museum. If you're a really big El Greco fan, you can see a lot of his works there. There's some rooms in the cathedral that have El Greco's art inside, and the cathedral itself is basically a museum. Its collection is worthy to put is as worthy as any of the world-class museums, that I will say. And there's also the easiest one, if you're not the biggest El Greco There's the Chapel of Santo Tome, where you can see the burial of the Count of Orgaz, probably his most famous El Greco work. Now, speaking of the cathedral, don't get overwhelmed with the cathedral or any site. Any site has so many layers that you can spend an eternity there. But the cathedral is the big one. It's Catholic capital of Spain, so cathedral there is a big deal. It's such a grand church with so many with a ton of collections. So pick what you want to see, and then be on your way. If you so now we're gonna move on from history to food. There's marzipan. Marzipan's famous from Toledo. Pick that up. It's a great, tasty souvenir that you can take back home to your friends, as I did. Some of you may like it, some of you might not. It has a very strong flavor, and people are very divided on it. And venison is also very popular in Toledo. It's a local specialty. And my final tip is, if you arrive by train, then don't walk into town. Get a taxi, and then there's a taxi rank right outside the train station. And then what happens is, ask them to drop you off at the stairs in the town, and basically what's gonna happen is they're gonna take you out, and then they're gonna go. So Toledo is on a hill. It's in the hills, and so they're gonna take you out, and you're gonna drive on this mountain road, and it's gonna go higher, 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 and then you're gonna get to this panoramic viewpoint of Toledo, which is a very beautiful viewpoint. It's a great welcome into Toledo, which if you just walked into town, you wouldn't see. Spend the money to do that. It's a great experience. So 2024 travel, that does it. 2025 travel. Well, I have one trip planned for sure. It's my Italy trip, going to Venice, Vicenza, Padua, Ravenna, Rimini, Modena, Milan, and Milan. So that's in June, right after graduation. And then I might do some US travel. I don't know at this point. But that's what's set for 2025. So, Happy New Year, folks.